Welcome to Talk Tensors. We're the place you come to get the breakdown on interesting, sometimes complex machine learning research papers.
That's us.
And today, we're tackling a big one. It's all about responsible AI governance.
Yeah, a really hot topic and pretty tricky to get right.
Totally. This paper dives into how AI developers, regulators, users, that's us, and importantly, the media interact.
Right. The media, or as the paper calls them, the commentariat. I quite like that term.
Me too. It captures that idea of, analysis and public opinion shaping.
Exactly. And this paper tries to model the whole strategic dance between these groups. It's not just assuming everyone wants the good outcome.
No, it assumes everyone have, motivations. Self-interest, maybe?
Pretty much. Which is realistic, right? Developers want to innovate, regulators have pressures, users want benefits without risk, and the media, well, they have their own angle too.
So our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack those interactions. How does the media actually fit into making AI trustworthy?
And the approach is cool too. They're using evolutionary game theory, EGT, plus running simulations with LLMs.
Okay, evolutionary game theory and large language models. Sounds like a powerful combo. Let's get into it.
Okay, so the paper sets up this model, right? 4 populations, developers, regulators, users, and this commentariat.
4 key players.
Yep. And they're asking, how do we actually get to responsible AI? Like AI that's safe and people trust.
Makes sense.
They focus on 2 main ways this might happen. First, media scrutiny could push regulators to, actually regulate effectively.
Like a watchdog role.
Exactly. And second, users might start basing their decisions whether to trust and use an AI on what the commentariat says.
So media recommendations become important for adoption. If the media flags something as risky,
then users might steer clear. Or vice versa. It conditions user trust.
Okay, that sounds plausible. But why use evolutionary game theory specifically?
Well, the big challenge with AI governance is speed. Things change so fast, we just don't have decades of data on what works.
Right, it's hard to run controlled experiments on global tech rollouts.
Precisely. So EGT lets you model these strategic choices like, should a developer prioritize safety, which is costly, or speed, and predict how those strategies might spread or die out over time?
It's like simulating the evolution of behavior in this AI ecosystem.
You got it. And game theory itself isn't new, obviously. It's used all over economics, biology.
Sure, I've seen it pop up in multi-agent RL and things like that.
Right. But what's really novel here for AI governance modeling is treating the media, the commentariat, as an active player, not just a passive channel for info.
With their own strategies and payoffs.
Exactly. They're self-interested. They choose whether to really dig deep and investigate developers or regulators. That's like their cooperate strategy.
Cooperate meaning do the hard journalistic work.
Yeah, invest the resources. Or they can defect, meaning take the easy route, maybe less accurate reporting, less investigation.
And this media investigation, that's what they call soft regulation.
Correct. It's not laws or fines. It's the pressure of public information and reputation, contrasted with the hard regulation from government bodies.
Okay, so break down the game a bit more. We have the 4 players. What are their main choices?
All right. Users. They can decide, do I trust this AI based on media reports, or do I just avoid it?
Okay. Conditional trust versus no adoption.
Developers. Do I build the safe but expensive AI, or the maybe unsafe but cheaper and faster AI?
The classic trade-off.
Regulators. Do I put in the effort to regulate effectively, or am I kind of lax?
Diligent or not so much?
Yeah, the commentariat. Do I invest in a proper investigation or just, phone it in?
Cooperate or defect. Got it.
And to make this rigorous, they build these payoff matrices. It sounds complex, but it's just a way to map out the consequences.
Like if a developer builds safe AI and the media reports it accurately.
Both might get a reputation boost, more user trust, good outcome.
But if the developer cuts corners and the media misses it.
Developer gets short-term gain, maybe, but big risks down the line if it comes out. The matrices just lay out all those potential wins and losses for everyone, depending on what everyone else does.
It's a whole web of interconnected incentives.
It really is. But they didn't just leave it theoretical. This is where the LLMs come in.
Right, you mentioned ChatGPT4O and MistralLard.
Yep, the cutting edge ones. They used a framework called Fair Game to actually simulate these players as AI agents.
Wow, so they had AI agents playing the roles of developers, regulators, users, and media.
Kind of, yeah. In simplified one-shot versions of the game, the agents make decisions based on the payoffs defined in those matrices.
That's a meta. using AI to simulate how we react to AI.
Isn't it? It lets them test the game theory predictions computationally, see if these AI agents behave as the math suggests humans or institutions might.
And did they?
Yeah.
Did the simulations match the theory?
Yeah.
Before we get to that, they also use math models, right? Replicator dynamics.
They did. That's more standard EGT stuff. Looking at how the percentage of players using each strategy changes over time in large populations helps understand long-term stability.
Okay, so mathematical models, LLM simulations. What did they actually find? What are the big takeaways here?
Okay, one of the absolute key findings circles back to the media, specifically the cost for the commentariat to do a good investigation. They call this CI.
The cost of investigation, CI.
Yes. And the paper argues this cost is incredibly important. If it's really high, if it's hard or expensive for media to get information.
Then they're less likely to do the thorough work.
Exactly. Which weakens their ability to be an effective watchdog or provide reliable info to users. This really drives home the need for transparency.
Transparency from both developers and regulators, I guess.
Absolutely. Making it easier and cheaper for the media to find out what's going on directly lowers CI and, according to the model, promotes better outcomes, safer AI, more effective regulation.
That makes a lot of intuitive sense. Lower the barrier to scrutiny.
Right. And the paper also reinforces that dual media role we talked about. They can provide soft regulation by investigating developers directly.
Making companies think twice about cutting corners.
And they can also keep the regulators honest by reporting on their effectiveness.
The watchdog on the watchdog role.
Kind of, yeah. An interesting point is that effective media reporting on developers might actually reduce the need for really heavy-handed government regulation.
How so?
Well, if users are well informed by the media about which AI is safe and which isn't, market forces can kick in. Users avoid the risky stuff. Developers have a stronger incentive to build responsibly.
So empowering users through good information acts as a regulatory force itself.
That's the idea. But, and this is crucial, it all hinges on the media having the right incentives. The paper talks about reputational benefits and costs.
Meaning they need to be rewarded for good reporting and penalized for bad reporting.
Basically, yeah. If there's a strong reputational gain for accuracy and a real downside to getting it wrong or being lazy, they're more likely to invest in quality.
Okay, now about those LLM simulations. Did the AI agents behave like the game theory predicted?
It was a mixed bag, actually, which is interesting in itself.
How so?
Well, some things aligned, like the commentator agents were more likely to cooperate, do the investigation when the potential reputation gains were high. That matched the theory.
Okay, that makes sense.
But there were discrepancies. For instance, in the model where the media focused on investigating developers, the LLM regulators almost always chose not to regulate effectively. They consistently defected.
Even when the theory suggested they might cooperate sometimes.
Right. And conversely, when the simulation had the media investigating the regulators, the LLM developers seemed more likely to build unsafe AI, kind of exploiting the situation more than the baseline theory predicted.
That is fascinating. It suggests the LLMs, maybe because of their training data or architecture, interpret these strategic situations slightly differently than pure game theory assumes humans would.
It could be. Or maybe reveal something about the limitations of modeling complex human roles with current AI. It definitely shows that LLM simulations are a powerful complementary tool, but not necessarily a perfect mirror of the theory or reality. Lots more research needed there.
Yeah, definitely food for thought on how we use these models.
Yeah.
Any other surprising simulation results?
One other thing they noted, the LLM user agents. When faced with a choice, if there was any perceived positive payoff from adopting the AI, they basically always went for it.
Even if there were potential safety risks flagged.
Yeah, the drive to adopt based on perceived benefit seemed very strong in the simulations. This contrasts with some theoretical scenarios where users might just say, nope, too risky, and refuse to trust or adopt altogether.
Interesting. So the simulated users were maybe a bit more risk tolerant or benefit focused than expected?
Potentially. Again, it raises questions about how well these agents capture nuanced human risk assessment.
So stepping back a bit, this whole problem of technology outpacing governance isn't exactly new, is it?
Oh, definitely not. Think about, I don't know, the early internet. Chaos, right? Laws and norms took ages to catch up. Or even cars' traffic laws, safety standards. Those evolved over time, too.
True. It's a recurring pattern.
And evolutionary game theory itself has deep roots: economics, biology, sociology, studying how strategies and behaviors adapt in complex systems.
So this paper is applying those established tools to the specific, fast-moving world of AI.
Exactly. But the key addition, the really distinguishing feature for AI governance, is putting the media right in the model as an active strategic player, not just assuming information flows neutrally.
Which feels much more realistic given today's media landscape.
Absolutely. And all the recent debate and research around AI ethics and safety, that whole conversation really sets the stage for this kind of detailed modeling work.
Okay, so let's try to crystallize the really key points again, just clearly.
Right. Point one, that cost for media to investigate CI is super important. Lowering it via transparency is likely key.
Got it. Transparency helps the watchdogs.
Point two, media has two jobs: watching developers, soft regulation, and watching the regulators. Effective reporting on developers might even lessen the need for strict, hard regulation.
Okay, dual role, potential market effects.
Point three, reputational incentives matter. Media needs reasons, rewards, and penalties to aim for accuracy and depth.
Makes sense. Carrots and sticks for quality reporting.
Point four, LLM simulations are cool and useful, but they don't perfectly match EGT. They show interesting consistencies and discrepancies, pointing towards needing more research on AI agent behavior in these games.
A promising tool, but needs careful interpretation.
And finally, maybe point five. Those LLM user agents seemed very keen to adopt AI if there was any benefit, which might differ from how cautious real users could be.
Right, modeling user trust and risk is still tricky. Okay, that's a good summary. Now, for our favorite part, novel notions, where could this research lead next? Any wild ideas?
Well, building on that media incentive point, one idea could be to explore how different media business models affect things.
Like ad-driven versus subscription.
Exactly. Does an ad-funded outlet face different pressures, maybe towards sensationalism, compared to a reader-funded one? Could that impact their willingness to invest in costly investigations, that CI, or even the accuracy of their reporting, the PW parameter they mentioned?
So you might hypothesize that reader-funded models could lead to more effective soft regulation of AI.
It's plausible, right? You could look for parallels in how funding models have impacted investigative journalism in other fields. It connects the abstract model to the very real economics of media.
That's a solid research direction. Anything else? Maybe more futuristic.
Okay, how about this? A truly dynamic regulatory system. Imagine using AI itself to monitor the effectiveness of the soft regulation by the media.
Whoa! And AI watching the media's impact on AI developers.
Sort of. Think about systems analyzing media sentiment, tracking developer responses, gauging user trust shifts in real time. This data could then feed back to regulatory bodies.
To do what?
To adjust the hard regulations dynamically. If media scrutiny seems high and effective, maybe you ease off on some formal rules. If media isn't covering things well or developers are acting irresponsibly despite coverage, maybe you tighten the screws.
A hybrid adaptive system. AI helping regulate AI, informed by media signals.
It's out there, I know. Huge challenges, obviously. How do you measure quality or impact objectively? How do you avoid manipulation? But as a thought experiment.
It's definitely provocative. An AI-informed feedback loop for governance. Okay, let's wrap up this deep dive.
Sounds good.
So the big takeaway for me is just how vital and how complicated the media's role is in this whole AI picture. They're not just reporting, they're a strategic player connecting developers, regulators, and us users.
Absolutely. And understanding the costs and incentives for everyone involved, including the commentariat, is just crucial if we want to steer AI development responsibly.
Yeah, it gives you a new lens for thinking about AI news and analysis, considering the game being played underneath.
Definitely. And for anyone who wants to really get into the weeds of the game theory and the simulations.
We'll have the link to the full academic paper in our show notes. Check it out.
It's a dense read, but fascinating stuff.
Thanks for tuning in to Talk Tensors. We hope this dive gave you some new perspectives on AI governance. Catch you next time for another paper breakdown.